Hi, it's Kylie Koo. Welcome to my studio. I'm so excited to be here for week 1 of my Junk, Use It or Lose It project. And today I'm going to be making a couple of what I call eco-journals. Now, I call them eco-journals for 2 reasons. The first being, in terms of eco or eco, they're ecologically sound. They're about using everyday materials that generally come into the house. The second reason I call them eco or eco is because they're very economical. So these do not cost a lot to make. And in general, you don't need a lot of equipment to actually make them. So for the projects I'm doing today, I'll show you the basics of what's needed. First is some sort of food box or cardboard of some description, even heavy card if you didn't have that, a piece of paper, which we're going to make a template, a glue. I'm just going to use a glue stick, but PVA, any glue of that sort would do. I'm using an old brochure thing that comes in through the post. You'll need some twine or raffia, string, just something with which we're going to make the binding, and these are the simplest bindings to make ever. Some paint, and for my eco-journal projects I always like to use the bottles that are nearly at the end, or the tubes that are nearly at the end. You know, those that if you're sitting down to do a painting you might think, well, I don't have enough paint there, so I'm not going to use that colour. So this is a great way to use up all those little bits that's left in those. You don't actually need to paint at this stage, you can always paint them at another time, but I'm just showing you that today. Scissors, or some sort of cutting implement, a ruler, and some sort of punch. Now, this is quite an elaborate thing. You don't need anything as elaborate as this. If you don't have a hole punch, then you could probably get away with poking a pen or a pencil to make holes, but certainly if you had a hole punch, that would be handy. So, let's get started. And I'll just clear these out the way just now. Now, I'm just going to use this little box today, which measures just slightly over 4 inches by 4. I quite like the idea that it's shaped, and that's about 10.5 centimetres by 10.5 centimetres. You could make it whatever size you want. I just saw these boxes and quite liked the kind of size of them, and I thought these would make cute little journals. So all I'm going to do is to open it up to begin with, and then what I'm going to do, I don't know why I folded those ends in, but it doesn't matter. What I'm then going to do is I want these 2 main panels, but I'm going to keep these bits as they will be used later. Although one of the things I've decided with my Junk, Use It or Lose It projects is that when I cut things off, fine, I'm going to keep them if I know I'm going to have a definite use for them, but if not, I'm going to start actually putting the likes of that into recycling and getting rid of it, because these are some of the things that I've got big piles of and never going to get round to using. So I'm going to cut out these. I'm just going to use this to cut. You could use scissors, but I just find this sometimes a little bit quicker, and yeah, so I'll get on now and cut these panels out. So I've got my 2 panels, that's fine. I'm going to set these off to the side to use later, and I've got all these little bits and pieces that again I'll set to the side. I'm not necessarily going to use them all to show you today, but these will go towards making tags. And the next thing I'm going to do is to get my brochure, and I'm going to open this up to the middle. I've already opened the staples here because I've already taken some pages out, and basically what I want to do is to take 10 of these double pages, so like this. For this particular project I'm going to have 20 pages in my little journal, so I'm taking out 10 of each of these. And then I'll show you what comes next. So we know that the journal that I'm making is 4 inches by 4 inches. I'm just going to put the crease right down this, just to keep it together. So we know 4 inches by 4 inches. So this page across the way is just short of 8 inches. So across this way, that's absolutely ideal. This way, it's just over 10.5 inches. So what I want to do is to cut this at roughly the 8-inch mark. I may just take it 1/8 of an inch, slightly below that, just to make certain that the edges of the pages don't hang over. So, you know, you can either cut it with scissors, you can tear it along the ruler, or if you have a paper cutter, you can do that. So I'll just cut this and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've cut my page. Again, thinking about what I do with waste, these can either go to the bin. I am going to show you something to do with if you've got any scraps like that later, but again, I'm not going to hold on to swathes of these just in case, but I will show you one thing that I thought about doing with these. So I'm just going to leave that as it is for the time being. So of course, you'll do 20 of these. Then what I'm going to do is open it up, and I'm just going to use my ruler, but again you can use scissors or whatever, and I'm going to cut this into 2, or in this case tear it into 2. So I now have what will become 2 pages in my little journal. Now what I like to do at this stage is to get the creases in, so I'm going to fold each of these pages. You could stick these into a journal like this. I just want to make them a little bit thicker for this journal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it this way. And you might find that these run off a little bit, but that really doesn't matter. And I'm going to fold it this way. And then I'll go to the next page and I'll do exactly the same. So the 10 double pages that you've started with, you'll now have 20 individual sheets, and each of those will be folded. And then I'm going to split them into 2 piles of 10. And this is where I bring in the glue stick or glue, you know, whatever you're using. If you're using wet glue, it may take longer to dry. If you're using something like a glue stick, you may just need to go around a little bit later just to seal down any edges that come up. But I'll have made my 2 piles of 10. So I'm now bringing this back out, and I'm actually going to stick them into place. So with my first pile, what I do is I simply take my glue stick. I want to pay particular attention to the edges. I'm only doing it on this bottom half. So just trying to get a bit thicker glue around the edges to make sure that they stick. And then I'm just going to quickly go over the rest of it there. Okay, I then fold it in half. Obviously just trying to match it up as best as possible, but if it doesn't match it exactly, it doesn't really matter. That was just too far off for my liking. So there we go, that's better. Making sure it's as well stuck down as possible. Then I'm going to take this bit and I'm going to glue this together. So again, paying particular attention to those edges along there. Really just need to do kind of one side of it, but you can do 2 if you want to make absolutely certain it's stuck down. And I will do that. Now, when it comes to actually putting these into the book, what I like to do is to have that folded edge, you know, it's not been stuck down in any way, to the top, and then this neat edge to the outside. So the rough edges go to the inside or the bottom. It doesn't matter, and in this case, given that it's a square, you could use it any which way you want. So I would do that with 10 of the pages. I'm then going to take my next one, and this one I'm going to do slightly differently because I want to make this a pocket page in the journal. So again, for this one, I'm going to open it up. This section, because this is being stuck down entirely, I'm going to go round edges to make sure they stick well, and then across all of it, and then going to fold it into place, make sure it's stuck down. Then I'm going to flip it, and again this is just because I like the kind of neat edge. I'm going to flip it so that that folded edge, which was along the centre of the page, is to the top. And what I'm now going to do to make it into a pocket is I'm just going to simply go down the outside edges. I'm going to do that on both sides just to make sure they stick, and along the bottom. And then I'm going to fold it like so, just moving it into place, and again just making sure that it's well sealed along those two edges. So what we should have at the end of that is 10 pages where they're stuck completely, and 10 where they've got a pocket like this. So we'll set these aside to dry for just a little while. Now here's two that I've already let dry a bit, and all I'm going to do is paint these. So the other thing that I should have said that you'll need, if you are going to paint them at this stage, you could actually just go ahead and make your journal without painting and then paint them as you go along. But if you want to paint them at this stage, all I'm using is an old glue brush. I've got some paints here. You can put this on as thick or as thin as you want. If you put a lot of water to it, remember it may seep through and take a bit longer to dry. Equally, if you use thick paint, it will take a little while to dry anyway. So I'm just going to put a quick coat of paint on these, and really use whatever colours you want. I'm quite happy for the writing to be showing through at this time, because my intention is that once the journals are made, I will be putting more onto them, decorating them more. So just now it's really just about getting a bit of colour down, and so that I can get them into the book. So I'm going to do that on both sides. If you've got a heat gun, you may want to dry it at this time, otherwise set them aside to dry. By the time you've done 20 of these, the 10 pocket ones and the 10 flat ones, then the first ones are going to start to dry anyway. If you want, you could paint inside the side of the pocket ones, just up in here. I'm quite happy to leave it this way because I actually like to see when I've made it from recycled material. Now while those are drying, what I'm also going to do is give my covers a quick coat of paint. Again, as thick or as thin as you want at this stage. You could decorate them fully at this stage if you want. I just want them to have a quick cover of paint, so I'll do that. So covers painted, just a quick coat on both sides, and again I'll lay my covers off to the side. And what I'm going to do now is, and it doesn't need to be done at this stage, I'm going to put these into the order that I actually want them to be in the book. And the way that I decided to do it was to have a kind of plain page and then a pocket, a plain page and then a pocket. These are still slightly damp. So I'm going to take a plain page, then I'm going to take a pocket. Now what I want to do with the pockets is to make sure, again, that folded side is there, so that rough edge is to the inside. It doesn't matter, it's just me being kind of pernickety. So that way, then I'm going to take another plain one. If this had been painted, I would take it, I would put that one there behind it. And then with the next pocket one, what I'm going to do is to put it sideways in. So I'm just going to have the folded line there so that the rough one's at the bottom again. And so I'll do that until I have 20 pages together. So what I'm going to do next is to make a template and then punch holes into my covers and into my individual pages. So for the template, I've just taken a piece of paper that again is about 4 inches, so the size of that. I've measured in from each side roughly 1 inch, so from the side Sorry, just let me show you closer. So I've taken my piece of paper, I've folded it over, I've measured in about 1 inch from each side, marked it, and then I've drawn a line roughly 3/8 of an inch. Sorry, 3/8 of an inch in. That's because when I punch this, I don't want it too near the edge because otherwise it might tear. So the template will work like so. Now this is where you can, if you don't have a punch, try it with a pencil or just something to make a hole. Certainly a punch will make a neater hole. So all I'm going to do now is grab my punch and put the holes in. So one of the reasons, this punch is good in as much as you can set the distance in that you want to go, but what I'm less keen on, and it's got 2 punch hole sizes, which is good, what I'm less keen on is I find it difficult to actually find exactly where to punch. So I'm just looking there, it'll be difficult for you to see, but I'm just looking to make sure that I've got it in the same place as my template, and then punch. So that's that, and then I'll do the same with each of the 20 pages. And I'm getting really pernickety just in terms of trying to look at what edge I want as my top edge. Yeah, so I want that, which was the folded edge, as the top, I think. No, that would be it. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the benefit of it being a square is, as I say, you can put it anywhere. So we will punch this and then I'll be right back. So I now have my 20 painted pages, all with the holes made, and I have them so that every second one is a pocket, and then that one should go to the side, and so on. I have my 2 covers, front and back, so I'll put them together like so. And what I'm going to do now is to bind it. And I'm going to take this piece of raffia. It's not terribly long, this piece, it was just a leftover. So it's about, I don't know, 14 inches maybe. So I'm just going to cut this in half. Basically you want something that can actually thread through the hole. So if it's too thick, it might not thread. But here we go, and all I'm going to do with this, I may need to do a few at a time until I get the first side done, is to thread them through the holes. Okay, I'll continue with that, and then I'll do the second one obviously in the bottom set of holes. I'm just going to pull in my black mat here because I think it'll be easier to see against that. So there we go. I've threaded through both sets of holes, and all I'm going to do now is to put a knot in it. Or you can put a bow, you can put whatever you want. There are benefits to putting a bow, but actually these things open quite easily, so it's not too difficult. And you could tie, if you wanted, you could put beads on. You could leave these a lot longer and then put beads on. And I've got another piece of raffia here that I am just going to use to tie it closed. So let's have a look on the inside. This will open very easily. Once the pages have dried, they do get a little bit thicker, so they will turn on this without any difficulty at all. You could have it tighter, or you can keep it quite loose and just be able to flip back and forward. You could actually do a double spread on this if you wanted, or do individual pages. really whatever way you like to work. So that's version number 1. The second version, which I've already got made up, is this one, made in exactly the same way, except I did the binding ever so slightly different, and I just used a piece of garden twine for this. And all I've done with this one is to use a slightly longer piece than the raffia. Just take it out a fraction. So a slightly longer piece. I threaded one end through one hole, the other end through the other, so it looks like that on the back. Then when it comes to here, you can put a simple knot in it if you want, and then literally just take it round like that and tie it with a bow. So it's a binding and a closure all in one. So what I like about these little journals is you could actually continue to add pages to them. So for example, the ones that I made earlier by way of demonstration, if you didn't have any, if you'd used up all your magazine pages and you got another magazine in, you could simply make some more pages, just the same process, take this out, punch them and add them in. And you could really build up your journal until, whatever size you wanted. So that's one thing I like about it. This kind of size is such that it would be easy to put in a kind of handbag, a purse, and just carry it with you. The other thing is you could take the pages out and just carry a few pages with you that you could then put back in. Or you could punch other things and put it in between. So lots of possibilities. Now, I did say that, keep some things off to the side and we would come back to them. So I'll just show you those now. Now, the first was the offcuts from the box, and all I've done is I've painted one side, and this could be used as a tag. So find a pocket and put the tag in. And again, you can make them bigger, smaller, whatever you want to do that. The other thing is those strips of paper from the bit that was cut off. Here's one that I've just quickly painted. So you remember that was the top end of that double sheet of paper. So I just put some of the paint that I had left over onto that. All I'm going to do is, you could take a ruler, scissors, whatever. I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to tear here. If it's still slightly damp, you just need to be careful at this stage because it will tear in ways that you don't want it to. So I've got those two pieces. I'm going to fold each of those in half. And do the same again. And do the same with this one. So I've got these 4 pieces. I'm just going to put them together. I'm going to then fold them all together. Now, at this stage, you could either take a needle and thread and just do one big stitch in there, or you could even take a stapler. If you have a stapler, you could even just leave it like that. You could put a paper clip on it or whatever. If you take a stapler, I'll probably put these in the wrong place. It's always difficult lining these up. Well, I find it, but... oh, that wasn't bad. So 2 staples through, fold it over, and then you have a little mini journal, and that could go in another pocket. And here's another one that I'd already made. So there we have it. 2 little journals from recycled materials, bits and pieces that I had lying around, old paint I used in this case. I can go through and decorate each as I want to, 2 different bindings. So what are the lessons that I've learned from this project? Well, one is that a magazine or brochure such as this, one will go a very long way. I think that I could probably get, I've not counted all the pages, but I could probably get 4 journals like this from one of these magazines, one of these brochures, and still have pages left over that could go in a more general junk journal. That one style of box, again, you know, I've managed to get from that, from one box, I can get 2 covers, and I can get tags. The other thing from the magazine is I can make the tiny little journals. I could use a bigger box and I would have a bigger journal, but actually I quite like the size of this. So I think the main thing that I'm thinking is that at any given point in time, to make this sort of journal, the most I need to have in my stash is one of these brochures and, you know, a couple of these boxes, and that would keep me going until I make some more. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm delighted to get my project off to a start, this mini series of junk, use it or lose it. I've succeeded for week 1. I set myself a target and I've succeeded for week 1, so we'll see what comes in week 2. But if you enjoyed this, I hope you will give it the thumbs up, and if you're not already a subscriber, then please do subscribe. I'll leave links to the introduction for this series just in case you haven't seen it, and it just has information about the challenge that I've set myself, and I'll also leave some links to other eco-journaling and eco-arts projects that I've done. If you decide to make something like this, then please do let me know. You can tag me in Facebook, in Twitter, or on Instagram. If you use the hashtag junk, use it or lose it, and I'll put that at the end of the video. If you use that, then, you know, hopefully I would spot it as well, but certainly feel free to tag me in on any of those sort of social media sites. So thanks very much for watching. Do let me know if you make them, how you get on, and see you in the next project. Bye for now.